started. We'll go ahead with Olin first, and then we'll go to Travis.
Hi, Buzz. A couple of things. First of all, when y'all ever do get back to on the floor and playing, what can you realistically expect from your guys, or do you have any idea what to expect? And then secondly, I wonder, y'all been idle so long, is there any chance that y'all would opt out of the SEC tournament?
No, sir. Our guys want to play. It's hard, Holland, to answer your first question. Obviously, none of us have ever experienced anything like this season. I think prior to this season, I've had one game canceled. We were playing on the boat in Charleston. What is the name of that carrier? The U.S. carrier. There was I can't remember the name of it. We warmed up, and then there was condensation on the floor, and they had to cancel the game. So that's the only game that I've been a part of that was canceled in my career as an assistant or as a head coach. So this is so unique. Everything we're going through, specific to COVID, all the things that we have been through throughout this week in the state of Texas with the weather and all that's going on. How to predict what will be when we're able to come back, Olin, I don't know.
But no doubt that y'all play in the SEC tournament.
Yes, sir. I mean, as soon as we can play, we want to play. We were scheduled to play, as you guys know, today. We were going to meet the SEC minimum on guys suited up to play, but we were going to play. And those guys that were going to be able to play were excited to play, and the guys that weren't understood why they couldn't. So obviously another positive test changed that yesterday when we got the results back. And so now we're back to a similar situation that started this month.
Hey, forgive me for not knowing this. And sorry guys, this will be the last thing I'll ask you, but what is the SEC minimum for being able to play?
Yeah, all of that, like Olin, there's a deal called the NCAA has a protocol that starts with a tier 1 mandate. And that basically means anybody that's in your gym. That's your cohort that has to be tested. And then each league has testing protocols in regards to when do you test, who test, and anybody that's in tier 1 is who tests. And so we followed all of the NCAA stuff. We followed, obviously, all of the SEC and Texas A&M protocols. But the reason why we haven't competed this month is in that tier 1, that's what dictates everything. And so I know you guys know this because we've talked about it throughout the year, even the last time we visited. I mean, we've been vigilant and safe from the very beginning of all of this and making sure that our guys' health, mental health, physical health, emotional health was our number one priority from the beginning of the fall up to today. And we've had zero issues until the last time I think that we had a Zoom. And shortly thereafter the Zoom is when, specific to the tier 1 mandate, that's when we had to go on pause. And then within that pause, Olin, different things transpire. And that's why it's, I don't want to speak on anybody's individual health because it's not really that. It's just following the protocol, and each day things change based on testing. Because once you go into that protocol, then you have to follow a different testing schedule. And so the minimum is you have to have 1 coach and 7 players. And so we were going to meet that threshold in what was scheduled to be today prior to yesterday's test results.
Hey, thank you very much, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, next we'll go to Travis Brown, and then we'll go to Brent.
Hey, Coach. With how you've talked a lot about how you've approached the virus, you've approached the pandemic, when you've actually entered into these shutdowns, do you feel like you and your staff probably have approached it more conservatively than maybe even some other programs are, because you said like you value the health and the safety of your players and their families?
Well, I think that's the promise that we made to their parents, whoever they are and wherever they're from. We're going to take care of your son. And I think we've went about that in the right approach. I don't know, Travis, if I would necessarily say it's conservative, so to say. We followed the rules and the protocols from above, whether that's the NCAA, whether that's the SEC, whether that's Texas A&M. Even our county is involved when it comes to contact tracing. And so there's layers to all of this. And in many respects, we've been fortunate that we were able to go from the fall up until the first day of this month, and we had no hiccups. And then one hiccup has led to multiple hiccups. And as you guys know, if you follow it, that's typically what happens inside of a team is you try to catch the spread as soon as you can, and then it just it gets away from you. And following all of the protocols and the vigilance that is required in doing it, you just do your best.
And then do you feel like the fact that y'all were so good through the fall, like you said, is it kind of like you were so good that it's actually worse now because you might not have had players who had gotten it over the summer, gotten it over the fall, and there's frankly more people to get it right now?
Yes. I mean, I don't know how to say that appropriately. Yes, but that to be able to go from the fall to February and have 0 positive tests, obviously that's really good in many respects. And the game, so to say, is we don't want to get the virus. And so because we did such a good job, as soon as we had one positive, it turned into multiple positives. And that's what's led to where we're at now.
And then finally, do you not a whole lot of time before the SEC tournament and 7 games to make up, do you expect to make up any of those, or do you feel like the season will just run its course as normal and then you'll go into the tournament?
Yeah, Travis, I don't know how the league is going to handle that. Obviously, I know we have missed several games, as have other teams, maybe not as many as we have. And I don't know the math behind, when we're able to play again relative to what transpires with the other 13 teams while we're not playing. Once we're all back playing, what's the math involved prior to the conference tournament and what's the right approach? Obviously, that'll happen way above me. So I don't know exactly how it'll play out. We'll do whatever they want us to do. We'll be happy to play whoever it is that at that time will be able to play. Obviously, they're anxious to play now and have been anxious to play now. Some of this is, as you know, it's not the person that's infected. It's the contact tracing ends up becoming just as big of a component of this as those that are infected. And so doing right by all of the people involved, they end up being in different silos relative to what they can do and what they can't do.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, next up, we'll go to Brett Zornman, and then we'll go to Mike Lucas.
Hey, Buzz, I don't know if this is something you can address, but were you able to pinpoint where this all started at the very beginning?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, Brent, that's difficult to figure out. And obviously, we try to trace it back. We try to figure that out because you do want to answer that question. We're not around our people, adults or children, 24 hours a day. So it's hard to go, this is where it happened. And I think I'm not a doctor, and so I'm not even trying to talk in that sort of tone. I think the thing that's most difficult, Brent, is like it's unseen. And so you don't know. And I think as often as we're testing, that obviously helps prevent the spread, and or when there's a positive, you only have to trace back so far. But then what happens is once you have a positive test, now your tier 1 goes into a different calendar of testing. And then you begin to have consecutive multiple positive tests a day. And so trying to trace those routes, you do want to try to figure it out. And, and obviously you have to do that with the county. You have to do that on campus. You have to do that with the SEC. But pinpointing where did it start and how was it contracted? Maybe a doctor would have a better idea of it than I do, but I don't know the exact answer to that.
You know, and as busy as you like to stay, how have you managed to pass the time? How have practices been? And I guess your word would be frustrating as well when you're getting ready to play a game and then you have to call it off again.
Yeah, so bits and pieces. When this first happened, which would have been the first day of the month or the first Tuesday of the month, I think is when I talked to you guys last time, because we were scheduled to play on a Wednesday. So got those test results shortly after I finished the Zoom with you guys, went into pause, and then during pause, depending upon what led to the pause, Brent, determines what you're able to do. So 7 days later, we were able to have 4 guys join us for practice. Not being sarcastic, it's not really a practice if there's only 4 guys, but we were calling it a practice. We had those 4 guys, Brent, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We were able to have 2 guys join us out of quarantine on Saturday. That put us to 6. If you test positive, you're in a different grouping and you have to follow different protocol relative to the timing, relative to the heart screenings, relative to the doctor appointments, all of the lab work that they have to do before you can be released. And then when you're released, you have a ramp up, and the ramp up is based medically on what you can handle. Symptoms dictate if you can do the ramp up consecutively. 25%, 50% day 2, 75% day 3, 100% day 4. And then it's just based on how each individual does. And so we were able to get to 7 on Monday of this week. We practiced on Tuesday with those 7. And then we were off on Wednesday because we found out Tuesday during practice that the game that was scheduled for Wednesday that had been postponed till Thursday had been canceled. So on Tuesday, when we had 7 in practice, we found out midway that the game on Thursday was going to be canceled. So we took Wednesday off. But because of the weather, the test from Tuesday, the lab wasn't open. And some of those that needed to do lab work on our team to be cleared couldn't go to their doctor appointments because the doctors were closed and they couldn't do the lab work. So we took Wednesday off because we were going to play on Saturday because Thursday's game was canceled. And the test that we took on Tuesday, they didn't get the results on Wednesday because the lab was closed. So we didn't get the lab results until Thursday. Everything was good. We test on Thursday, get the results on Friday, had another positive. So that's where all of this goes. And I think, Brent, what you try to do relative to the time is, how can I help this group of guys as best I can? How can I help this group of guys? And then what is each of those group of guys allowed to do? Are they, what protocol are they under? And so obviously you have to follow the COVID task force on campus, what they can do. Obviously, Eddie Binion, our trainer, has been phenomenal in all of this. Dan Jacoby has been super, super helpful to our program. And you just kind of have to know which group each person is. And now we're kind of back in that same mold with this pause.
Right. And last one from me. How helpful was
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. It sure did. That Reed Arena was used as a warming center. And I don't know how many people used it and everything, but I thought that was good of A&M to open it up and use it for that purpose, and wanted to ask you about that as well.
And Brett, not to take away from the seriousness of the virus and what it has done relative to our program over the last 20 days. But, you know, the no electricity and no water impacted our program as well. And so I know that everybody is trying to figure out the right things and the right protocol relative to COVID. One of the things that they didn't think through was when the worst snowstorm in the history of Texas happens and Texas A&M basketball is in a pause, and this particular child doesn't have food, water, or electricity, what are we allowed to do? Right. And so that was all a part of this last week, just like how all of us, I'm assuming, have been impacted by what's happened with the weather this particular week. But when they asked me my thoughts, and obviously it was kind of a COVID-ish question, like we're bringing people into a space where we're going to potentially practice or play. I thought it was for sure the right thing. Like, how can we help as many people as possible? Can't just not have electricity, can't just not have water. I mean, it's impacted our entire state in multiple ways. So I thought it was for sure the right play. It wasn't my idea. I was too involved in this other conversation that we're having to be even thinking of that. But yeah, it was impacting all of us. Our players didn't have electricity. Most of our staff didn't have electricity. So it was for sure the right thing.
Okay. Thank you, Buzz. Good luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll go to Mike Lucas, and then we'll go to Tyler Shaw.
Hey, Coach, I know you said you had 4, 5, 6 players this week at practice, and that's, tough you can't run 5-on-5 drills or anything. But for the guys that were there, could you feel like they got better in that week with the extra reps they got and whatever you guys, decided to do with those 2 hours of practice?
I think, honestly, Mike, we got a little better at trying to figure out what it was we could do to be efficient with those that we had. With each passing day, we got a little better. I would say, not just the players, me too. Like, how do you run a practice and you got 4 players? Well, we had 3 walk-ons join the 4 players. And then, each day it was a little different. And then it was also dependent upon some of the guys that were coming out of quarantine. It was depending upon some of the guys that were coming out of being released to join us at certain percentages. And how do you mix them in? What I would say on that, Mike, is all of this is never happened. And so it's never happened to me. It's never happened to you. It's never happened to our kids. And so how do you, what is your response to what's happening? And can you respond in the right way? And can you respond with the right attitude, with the right effort, with the right body language? The one thing that I noticed from the first pause is, I don't know how healthy you are or how fit you are, but like, to sit around and do nothing for 7 days and then come back on day 8 and go, hey, let's pick up where we left off. You can't do that. And then when there's only a limited roster, regardless of what number that is, when you come back after doing nothing, you're getting every rep in practice, whatever rep that is, in regards to whatever you can contrive to do with a limited roster. So it's not like you're going to be in there for 3 hours. It's not going to take long, because they're not where they were when this started. And then we don't have a full roster to do what we've always done. And so I think with each passing day, their cardiovascular improved, what we were doing improved. And then to get in some level of rhythm of, okay, hey, we're back, and let go of the residue of, man, can you believe what has happened? Can you believe what's going on? And then, on Sunday, I guess is when the snow began. And then, can we get out of our house on Monday? Well, when you've been in your house for a long time, and then you're trying to return, and then you can't return because of something different, it's very much a roller coaster. But our guys have been great. Our staff has been great. This is all unprecedented, as we all know. And our response and what has transpired, I have great respect for our kids and their togetherness in trying to handle this the right way.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, we got time for a couple more. We'll go to Tyler Shaw, and then we'll go to Andrew Hattersley.
Coach, kind of going off that a little bit, when you finally do hit the court again and they're able to play a game, do you feel like the team's going to be able to pick up kind of where they left off, or does this almost feel like the start of a new season after so much time off?
It's just hard to say, Tyler. Like, I'm not dodging the question. I think I've been as transparent with all of you guys as possible since I've met you, but I don't know. Like, I've never not played a game thus far in February. So, like, how are you going to be? I don't know. I'm not saying we're great. I'm not saying that. But the last time we played, the last week that we played was arguably our best week thus far of the season. It was our lowest turnover games. I think we had 9 turnovers, 9 and 8. Obviously, we won at Kansas State. We won another road game. So we were beginning to think, hey, maybe we've kind of found a recipe. I thought we were playing harder. I thought we were playing more together. And I thought maybe we had some level of momentum. After talking to you guys against Kansas State, we flew home. I think we were off on that Sunday because we played Saturday, what was an early game. We worked on that Monday, good day. Worked on that Tuesday in preparation for Wednesday's game, talked to you guys. And then I guess since then, it's just been a little bit of all of the things that we've talked about this morning. And so how do I think we'll respond when we play again? I think we'll be excited to play again. What will that translate into looking like? You know, one of the things Brent was talking about, what did I do with my time? One of the things was I had been keeping notes throughout the year. When a team would go on pause, I would call their head coach. And we had not been on pause up until that time. And I had kept a notebook of, hey, Coach Tyler, if you have 5 minutes, what have you learned that you would change? That was always the question I asked head coaches whose teams went on pause. You know, South Carolina was on pause for over a month. St. Louis was on pause almost a month. Cincinnati was on pause for a month. Like, you watch these games and you can see like how many games they've played, and you can tell who's been on pause and how long approximately they've been on pause. And so I went through all of my notes that I had kept because teams were going on pause, obviously, before the season ever started. Ole Miss started the season on pause. So everybody has a different answer on how their team responded after the pause. And sometimes that response is based on how long was the pause, because a pause can be different relative to who can do something and who can't do something and how many can do something and how many can't. So it's just, I think it's hard to predict, and I'm not dodging it at all. I honestly don't know the answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go to Andrew Hattersley, and then we'll wrap up with Travis Brown.
Yeah, hey, Coach, just following up off that, when you guys do return, it'll be having been basically over 20 days since you played a game, and with people kind of in and out of practice, what's your level of concern about conditioning and just people being able to handle a 40-minute game?
It would have taken everything we've had with multiple minutes, Andrew, from multiple walk-ons to play today. Because we did not have we were at the league minimum required prior to the test results from yesterday. The thing that is hard for me to answer, Andrew, is what will transpire over the next 7 days relative to who will be able to play and how will that impact our team relative to who can practice and what level of conditioning they will be in. And it just kind of depends on how the testing goes now that we're back in this situation. We tested again this morning. We'll test again tomorrow. We'll test again Monday. We'll test again Tuesday. So it just kind of depends with each passing day, all of the variables involved. But conditioning is for sure a part of it when you typically practice 3.5 times a week and play 2 times a week this time of the year. When you miss those real reps, you're going to lose some of your conditioning, and there's no way to prevent that.
Gotcha. Thanks, Coach.
All right, we'll wrap up with Travis Brown.
Hey, Coach, one more quick one. I know you touched on it a little bit there, I believe with Tyler's question, but I know you said that after other programs went on pause this year, you called their coach, whether you knew him or not, and picked their brain a little bit about it. Is there any things that you learned from some of those other coaches that you have instituted in this pause to try to make it the best that you can?
Yes, and I think some of it, Travis, that I was learning along the way, like UConn's been on pause, I think 3 times. And everybody's kind of, Texas was on pause for 19 days, like everybody's in a different situation. And I think what I initially started those conversations were selfish. I wanted to learn what led to their pause in hopes that we could prevent it. And then the second thing was I wanted to learn during their pause, what did they do to make it the best they could? And so everybody that I've talked to has different ideas and different thoughts. And I think this situation that we're in right now that started yesterday, this situation is a little different than the one at the beginning of this month. And so we are going to be able to go about this segment of time a little different. And I hope that we can be a little better relative to how we handle it than the first one. We handled the first one fine. There just wasn't much variance in what we were allowed to do. So all of those calls, like I don't have it with me right now. It's in a different spiral that I've kept. It's called my COVID spiral. And it's just like all of the stuff that we've learned over the last 11 months, including those notes of all of those conversations.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all we got for you, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Man, I'm happy to see you guys. I don't know how many times I've said that in my career, but good to see you.
You handle
Have a good
the
day.